Yo, good morning. I thought I should make a quick video on Germany 30 or DE 30 euro. Starting with our favorite time frame, which would give us everything we could possibly need in this case, because we created a new high last week. Before we created the new high, right, we had this buy side liquidity, relative equal highs, and the third one created here on the 15th of May. And last week we saw this happen, a push to the upside. So I decided to label as we do inefficiencies that we see in the market. Of course, there's nothing to work with on the left side because this is an all-time high. So the only area we can work with is lower prices. So we have this BC in this region. We also have this one, which was tapped into, and I believe even 50% of it. No, actually 20%, 25%. But we have this imbalances, right? I'm labeling imbalances right now. Another thing I would like to note is this candlestick wick, this tail. Again, remember what we mentioned about the tails, right? So we have the 50% of this tail, which is right here. Also the last thing when it comes to buy side and sell side liquidity, remember when I told you that a candlestick without a wick or a tail is very important to note. And on a weekly chart we have this one. It's also there on a daily, it's also there on a 4-hour. We opened and continued going higher, so this is very smooth for me. If we are sellers, this should be our first target, and then the 50% of this week is our second target. Let me delete this for now. Actually, no, let me put the 50% firstly before we move on. This is the consequent encroachment of which week? 29 May. From a weekly perspective. The coordinates of that level is supposed to be 15809.8. So now we can remove this Fibonacci. So these are our PDRAs, right? Starting from a weekly perspective, I'm not going to really dive deep into all the individual ones because this is not my responsibility right now. Going down to the daily chart, we have this one from the weekly chart, this consequent encroachment for this week. We also have this tailless candlestick and everything. And remember, on Friday I said that the best place to be a buyer is always the bottom wick of the previous candlestick. We came down to it, as you can see. We touched into it, right? Not the 50% of it, probably the 20%, maybe the 10% of it, but we came down into it and shot up and made a new high, and of course now rejecting lower. I said if you want to be a buyer, the best place to be a buyer is the 50% of this week, of the daily week. I also said that you should look for PDRAs within this zone since you're looking for a discount. But now that we are on the third day and that we are on the next day, on Monday, we should then obviously now be looking for this area. Again, this is with the assumption that you are a buyer. You have looked at your seasonal tendencies and everything, and you are a buyer for some reason in this area. I would say look for a PDRAs within this shaded area. I know there's too many nested shaded areas, so I'm just gonna delete that. But if you are somebody like me and someone that believes that this is probably a turtle soup move creating this all-time high, then you may not be a buyer, you may be a seller. If you are a seller, we have multiple targets for you. You have the 50% of this week, the consequent encroachment. You have this one, you have the one on the weekly, and of course, if you want to start going lower, you get the PCs and all that. But I guess we'll see how price unfolds. Going down to the 4-hour, as a seller, right, as me, I'll be looking for this high to be my stop loss. Alright, the all-time high to be my stop loss. I am not going to be negligent of this wickless, well, not really, but essentially wickless candle. Let's so I'm not gonna be negligent of that. It's not really a wickless candle, it's just very small. Now going down to the more interesting areas, we have this CB from the low of this candlestick to the high of this candlestick, right? If you are a buyer, you are waiting for this discount raise, you're waiting for this BC here, you're waiting for this BC here, and you're waiting for the 50% of Thursday's candlestick wick or tail in this case. I, as a seller, I'm looking for market structure shifts. Using the 2022 model, we can see that price rallied up, took out the previous highs. At that time, the previous highs were these levels right here, these ones right here, and these ones right here. I could even almost say this green candlestick right here. This was a new high once upon a time. And then after this critical candlestick right here, this other block, because this was the last down close candlestick before we had a displacement to the upside, a massive one, creating a brand new high over there. But then look what happens later on. Price fell off, right, completely balancing this imbalance right here, this inefficiency right here. It completely balanced it off, and we traded back up a bit, creating a CB over here. Price entered into that CB and then fell off. This was the first entry that I would have had using the 2022 model, but let's assume that I missed this entry, right? Let's not even look at it right now. Actually, I can delete it since I've already shown it. Price continued meandering and then milked off from there. This is the interesting part for me, right? When price milked off from there as we closed on Friday, we have three things when it comes to the 2022 model. Did we have a recent or internal buy side liquidity taken? Yes, we did. We had this one, we had this one, we had this high, right? It was swept, so internal liquidity was swept. Second thing, do we have a displacement to the opposite direction? Yes, we do. We had this fall off from here to here on Friday's close. And then the last thing, do we have a market structure shift? Yes, we do. These previous lows, this internal low or internal liquidity was swept as well, thus forming a market structure shift, right? But if you remember what I said yesterday, I mentioned that I only consider a market structure shift to be a valid one where a bullish PDRA has been wiped. That's exactly why I left this order block. Remember, this is our order block, right? This sensitive area, this is our order block that's supposed to support price higher. This order block was supposed to be an entry for buyers to shoot up even more, right? But we broke through it. So that's the first thing. Now that you understand that we violated a bullish PDRA, what about this one? We have a fair value gap, a beautiful looking one right here. That was supposed to support price again higher, right? Wanted to see it push higher. But look what happened. We violated that as well. So this ticks off my box. This ticks off my checklist of a true market structure shift. So now that we've gotten a market structure shift, what's the last step of the 2022 model? Do we have a fair value gap? Yes, we do. There's our CB right there. As beautiful and as clear as day and night to sell the market off. If we're selling this market, this is a 30 minutes chart, right? If we're selling this, what are our targets? We obviously have this internal liquidity. I'm sorry for all the clicks. We have this internal liquidity. We have the 50% of this, which I'm going to eyeball, but we have this range. Give me 1 second. Let me just do this. We have the 50%, which is the entry of this range, this giant purple zone. So I'm not even going to put that there. So this is our TP1, this is our TP2, and then of course we can search for other bullish PDRAs. This is our TP3 because it's somewhat of a relative equal low with this one, even though it's a little bit higher, but I can consider this to be my take profit 3, and then at this point my stop loss is well into break even. What would make this trade invalidated? When we break through this, when we not only break through, when we break and close above this CB, then I can consider that to be invalidated. So I guess my stop loss would be at these highs to be extremely safe, or this last green candlestick. The last green candlestick being in a way an order block. So that's the trade idea that I have. I know you did not ask for it. I know you didn't really expect it, but this is what I have planned out for the next coming days of the week.